As an infra player, we see many opportunities by bringing blockchain to the trillions of assets that already exist, and not only scaling together with the new asset class.
Roberto, it's a pleasure to have you as my guest. Welcome to the J-Curve.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for being here in New York in person. And I would like to start with CETIP.
Okay.
Then Latin America's largest securities clearinghouse that merged with BM and FBO Vespa in March 2017 and became Brazilian Stock Exchange B3. And you joined CETIP in 2011?
CETIP 2010, yeah.
2010.
Through an M&A.
Through an M&A. So I would like for you to talk a little bit about how you joined CETIP and what was your life before and during that M&A transaction.
Well, I was working in consulting for 11 years. So I started really early, like 14 years old as a office boy in a bank. And then when I was 16, I joined a BPO company. And later I moved to one state above, to Curitiba, to open a branch of that. So after 11 years in consulting, I was hired as executive, as a CFO of an American company in agro, and then textile, and then financial services finally. And these financial services, we were in a group of 4 executives recently hired in August and September 2008. The company was GRV. And we were hired by Advent. Advent was acquiring the business and was working on the CETIP in a separate deal.
How big Advent was back then?
I don't know exactly how big they were, but they were really strong in the country. And they made a CETIP deal in 2008. And in October 2008, with the Lehman Brothers, our M&A with Advent didn't move on. And the owners of the company kept us there. I don't know. I never had talked to them. I talked only to Advent. And the deal was not done anymore. But the owners, they really wanted to sell the business. So they kept us with the plans. And 2 years later, we made a filing for an IPO in 2010. And that IPO became a dual track with some funds interested and CETIP engaged. And finally, we canceled the IPO and sold the business to CETIP. So exactly 2 years later, in December 2010. And it was really interesting because it was $1.3 billion deal. And the company 2 years before was being sold to Advent to maybe 300 million. So it was a really ramp up in those 2 years. And the company had the same size of CETIP. So it was an M&A with a public company that was doubling the size of the business. So the project was called Double Up. It was a very stressful negotiation, kind of 8 months into that. And end of 2010, we became a public company through the M&A. That company became a business unit, and I started leading that as a public company inside CETIP. And we stayed there until 2017, when there was the new merger with BM&F Bovespa. And in the middle of that, we had also acquired Sascar, IoT tracking vehicle business. That's one of the most interesting things in that history is that CETIP did not want to keep Sascar. During the M&A, we had to spin that off. And it was a big business. We had to spin that off. And it was a leverage M&A. So we doubled down on that leverage and acquired another 40% from the founder. So we acquired 100% of the business, and we make a management buyout of 20% in that transaction. So it was very risky for us as individuals. It was all in terms of leverage. But, we liked the business. We knew it for 1 year. The business was growing. And 1 year later, we sold part of the business to GP.
Fersen,
yeah. And 3 years later, GP and us, we sold 100% of the business to Michelin Tires. So Michelin was not in the radar for acquiring
How did that
IoT
transaction come to be?
Yeah, and it was a big transaction, great returns to everyone. And the business had grew a lot, and Michelin wanted, to enter into kind of tracking the cars by mileage using IoT. So it was such a nice story, and it was running in parallel while I was inside CETIP, running the business unit until 2017. So it was GRV to CETIP, Sascar to GP and Michelin. And in 17, we had these two infrastructures, basically CETIP on fixed income side and BMNF Bovespa with on the equity side. And it was a merger that there was some trials before, and finally in 2017, it was more than a year negotiating, antitrust, central bank, SEC, local SEC, all of those approvals. And it was a $4 billion deal on the CETIP side being kind of sold to BMNF Bovespa and creating the infrastructure called B3. So that was a very nice M&A as well.
You have a long history of working with regulators.
Yeah, I think these hardcore infra solutions, they sort of need regulation to be long-standing.
What dragged you consistently to this complex problem, solving problems, doing these sophisticated financial transactions? What was your motivation?
I think to solve this kind of difficult solutions, and Brazil is continental size, so we do have scale to do this kind of things. And our central bank is so advanced in terms of infrastructure and payments and everything. So I think we have lots of opportunities. And I believe that Brazil needs the entrepreneurship to become a better and more efficient country. Because, education takes time. And through technology, we can speed up a lot of that. And we're going to talk about the angel investment. I think that's one of my core selections on the investments I made in the past was, so is this enabling something bigger or only solving one specific issue? And that's what crypto blockchain can do, right? It can enable and solve and disintermediate a lot. But the infrastructure we have now for financial services, it was created in the 80s, in the 90s. And technology evolved so much, so we think we can be more efficient than what we are right now.
So before we talk about your endeavor in crypto and Mercado Bitcoin, you mentioned central bank being incredibly advanced in terms of infrastructure and in terms of initiatives. And there's a lot of things that the world and US can learn from the practices of central bank and from various initiatives and innovations. And Pismo just got acquired by Visa for $1 billion, which is yet another validation of how sophisticated financial infrastructure is in Brazil. But if you just reverse back and think about why is it so ahead of the pack in terms of initiatives and in terms of support and infrastructure?
Well, I think the financial market in Brazil is really well developed. It's kind of concentrated, and it somehow helped to evolve. Central bank is independent politically and very technical. And especially in this season with Roberto Campos, they're doing what they're seeing is a 3-step digital transformation. And those blocks are PIX, or what do we call
PIX?
PIX.
PIX?
So PIX is amazing.
It's like a Venmo on the state level. Is that right?
Yeah, now we have, I think, 3 billion transactions a month. And the amount of transactions in credit card has not come down. That's what's surprising everyone, because it's showing that there was some demand that needed a simpler and faster solution, and that's enabling more transactions. Sometimes maybe people were holding up to make one transfer, and now they do micro transfers for free instantaneously with using cell phone, email, or QR code. And it's not only for wire transfer, but for payments as well. So you pay your taxi, your
utility bills,
your everything, and that's a big step. And our wire transfers was really good, but they came with something much better. The second one is open finance. So Brazil is taking that really seriously. So in terms of auctioning your mortgage and transferring that from one bank to another and seeing these comparisons. So I think central bank, they're even talking about having a super app powered by central bank, where you will have your full financial life in one place. So it's really interesting what they're doing. OpenFi is the second one, and the third one is the CBDC, the central bank digital coin, digital currency. And that's the one they are piloting now. We are very happy to be selected as one of the 16 companies and consortiums that will be piloting solutions with CBDC. So it's quite interesting to see they're doing so much. And I think this is going to empower many, many fintechs and banks and companies in terms of FX. And imagine having this layer of blockchain to interact with central bank and overnight deposits and talking about doing FX using crypto, because Brazil is not so efficient in FX. Like you have Mexico, US very close. So to do a SWIFT and it's complex, takes days. So we are quite excited with this momentum of the regulation. And the regulation of crypto, we just got it, and it came that central bank is going to be the regulator of the crypto exchanges.
Which is good news for the market.
That's great news. We are happy with that. And we were operating as if we were already, because we just got our payment institution license from central bank as well. So for us, it's we are keeping the bar, but now we will have the regulation in place to avoid these Ponzi schemes. We had kind of 4 or 5 big ones in the last 2 years. It's really bad for the industry because sometimes,
especially for the industry that is still niche, right? That is still kind of building the level of trust and reputation among consumer.
Exactly.
What drag your interest in blockchain and Bitcoin, and how did you end up with Mercado Bitcoin?
Well, basically the executives on the CET side left after the merger, and the founders of Mercado Bitcoin called us to kind of create their board. Because we had this experience in the exchange that was regulated and listed company, and they wanted to raise the governance. And the exchange is 2 exchanges. One is using blockchain, the other is not. But we see the components very similar. So I think it was a very good match. We had been studying that inside B3 for maybe 2 years, and I was starting with this group of executives to do investments. So Banco Neon was the first one. It was not even called Neon when we invested. And Mercado Bitcoin was the second one. We made a big investment in end of 18, beginning of 19. And then the company had like 3 months of cash, and we had to lay off 50% of the team and put it in break even again, because the bear market of 18 was so long, 18, 19. And after this break even, we started to do the track of VC and make our Series A in 2020 later on, because in July 19, we had Libra, that consortium led by Facebook. That was a good revamp on crypto. So from July 19, we started to have a good momentum and ended up doing our Series A in 2020, and GP again, Fersen and Antonio.
They led you Series A.
They led our Series A, which was amazing because, when you have a fund that invested you in the past and now coming back. And, crypto in 18, the banks were shutting down our bank accounts. There was a time we had only one bank account. So it was only one left because there was a lot of bad saying on crypto and a lot of pressure from the incumbents. So it was really difficult moment. Even in 2020, it was difficult to raise the Series A because we didn't have an international fund, because it said, what's your local investor? And the local investors didn't know a lot about blockchain. Say, what's the international investor? So kind of this chicken and egg. So it was great that GP led that round.
Was their bet on the market, or their bet was mostly on you as a team?
One of the partners that had studied crypto a lot, and the guy loved the industry and what was going on, and they knew the team. So I think it was this combination. And, we were bootstrapped since then. In 2020, EBITDA margin was very high. So it was very healthy business. And in the end of 2020, started the boom of the market, right? And And 2021 was amazing.
Yeah, you just needed to survive all these years of bear market and unclear value proposition of a completely
Yeah.
like gray area and a lot of scam around that. But when you think about your decision making and how you thought about the opportunity in Mercado Bitcoin and in general in blockchain, what made you believe that that has a huge potential and you're willing to spend your time, your money, and your energy onto building this?
Well, we like this infrastructure business. They have so much leverage when you get a portion of the market or one layer of the market, one asset class. You don't even need to get everything, right? As a monopoly. So if you look at exchanges around the world, the margins are from 45 to 70, sometimes 80% EBITDA margins. And we had the expertise coming from there and seeing what blockchain, we still see what blockchain can do. And a lot of asset classes in Brazil that were not well served and that we have been able to serve them using blockchain upfront. And also the team, right? I was not alone. So it was always a team decision. 2 of us made the big investment, but 6 of us made the investment. So it was a lot of discussion and consensus, sometimes not so much consensus all the time, but we had this group deciding, not only me.
If you were to think about your unique executive slash entrepreneurial skills, that is the blend of your expertise and everything that you had to develop to stay relevant for Mercado Bitcoin as it grows, what are those for you? What are the main ones?
I think I'm a big connector. I like to make these connections and sometimes to take a problem. Sometimes we work with many problems, right? And to transform those in opportunities, you do have to say, where do I connect this and what help do I need? What counterparty we need to solve that? And I always like to make those connections. So I think that's a skill that has been helping and try to manage these different skills from the founders and from the management team that we hired. We have a very complete management team that we brought from the market. So to manage all of that diversity is quite challenging until nowadays. Keeps being challenging.
So Mercado Bitcoin, how big is it today in terms of size, operations, whatever data you can disclose?
Okay. We took the exchange in starting in 17 and decided to create an ecosystem. So Gustavo and Mauricio, the founders, they had the 2TM, which is to the moon. 2TM
Is it to the moon?
Is to the moon, yeah.
Okay.
So they had to the moon, which was the holding. So we said, okay, let's build the ecosystem below the holding. So all the fundraising was done at the holding level and everything we made is below that. So it's well organized as an ecosystem. And we did a lot. We say that in crypto, 1 month is more or less 7 months. So we need to be fast because the world is changing so fast in blockchain and there's everyone showing up with new things. And so we need to have this sense of urgency all the time. So we did a lot in these 2, 3 years, 4 years, especially after we raised money and had more resources to build. So now under 2TM, we have many things. We acquired a web portal dedicated to crypto. That's Portal do Bitcoin. We acquired Blockchain Academy, was the only blockchain education company that we had in Brazil. And now we have courses, crypto trainings in the 2 main business universities in Brazil. We use that to train public ministers and the public side, also regulators. So we have Blockchain Academy creating that content. We acquired an asset management company regulated with traditionals. So we can do funds. So we have funds for traditional and crypto funds as well. Tokenization business, the payment institution. We acquired one exchange in Portugal. There are only 3 licenses by the Central Bank of Portugal. We acquired one of those, which is really important to the Europe strategy. So this is a lot. And, in 18, 19, some of those pieces, they didn't exist. Like the tokenization, in the beginning, we said, what if we work with a third-party tokenization? And basically, there were none. So we had to build ours. All the technology is proprietary, so the custody is made by ourselves, the trading engine, everything. So all the systems are in-house. We have now 400 people and 3.8 million clients, and only in our platform. We have many exchanges in Brazil, so we estimate that Brazil has around 11 million individuals that traded crypto already. And one important piece is the B2B. So we are enabling companies and new entrants to put crypto trading in their front end. Maybe their clients opening an account with Mercado, but they keep control of that, or they can put the trade in the front end, like we announced with Magalu, which is a big retailer. In their in their financial app, you will be able to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Mercado is doing all of that in the back end. And we have Guide now, which is the biggest independent broker dealer in Brazil. They are operating with us as well, and they have crypto trading in their front end. So this B2B as new channels of distribution is really important. And the tokenization, so we're using blockchain to tokenize traditional assets. So we do not depend on a crypto bull market, bear market, exactly in terms of crypto assets. But we are tokenizing, for instance, consortium, which is very famous in Brazil, a very old asset class. You save money and one person in the group gets a car or a house every month. So we are tokenizing that. And back in 2019, we tokenized public debt, which is a very institutional investment, a very good one. And we could take that in fractions to the retail receivables, vendor anticipation, payment anticipation. So there are so many things that you can do with tokenization. And as I mentioned, the infrastructure we have in Brazil is very safe, but it's from the 90s, so it's very expensive. And with some overlaps that we believe we can disintermediate with blockchain and make it more efficient, less expensive, with 24/7 fractioning with many benefits. So that's basically everything we've been doing under this 2TM holding.
Am I right to say that building ecosystem is an approach out of necessity because you didn't really have infrastructure, and like you mentioned, you didn't have ecosystem existed, so you had to create that for the business to continue growing?
Yeah, some parts I would say yes. Some parts we believe are part of the core, like with this payment institution, we'll have a bank number and we'll be able to create accounts to our clients so that you transfer money from your account to your name under Mercado Payment Institution. And this is a clear step in terms of giving the clients security, safety, because they know my money is in a bank account that is fully regulated, and not sending money to Mercado to a more omnibus account in a different bank. And by having the accounts, then we can do programmable purchasing. You will be able to receive your salary in there and make your full financial management inside a crypto company. We are bringing the card, so we'll be able to make purchases, and you choose if you wanna consume your BRL or Ethereum or BTC from your savings. And then later we can do the last mile of FX when you do remittance to abroad using crypto, credit, like you hold your custody with us and you get some credit as part of that custody. So there are so many things coming, but we need to have those stacks to evolve as a full offer.
So how do you reconcile this in-house product development, acquisition strategy with a fast pace of growth, still being profitable business, and a business that has been bootstrapped until 2020 when the market opened, bull market came, and you were able to continue raising money?
Well, in 2021, the growth was so gigantic. Like in March 2021, we had more trading than the full year of 2020. In 2021, we had more trading volume than the last 7 years.
Can you quantify that a little bit?
In 2021, it was like 40 billion reais in trading versus 6 billion in the
Which is
last
what,
year.
$8 billion.
Yeah. So it was an amazing growth. And it was great that the platform could support that. And the team had to work so hard in all fronts. There was a month we were getting maybe 150,000 new clients in a single month. So to KYC and everything was so tough to grow the headcount and bring the new execs that we didn't have in place at that time. But now we have a very senior management team and very complete. So CTO, CPO, CMO, we have a great team. And the team is really well aligned in terms of speed and how we make fast decision making among us. And we are fully remote. So yeah.
Have you always been remote, or that's something that happened after COVID?
We were remote especially for tech, but it was very open if anyone wanted to be remote at that time. And right now we had the office, 400 people, and had 20 people go into the office. It said it doesn't make sense. If you have 380 at home office and then 20 going, so let's shut down the office and make it work. And then we created a lot of dynamics to offset being remote. And we think that the best talent, they really don't want to spend traffic in São Paulo is crazy. They don't want to spend 2-3 hours in traffic every day. And so we have daily syncs, weekly meetings with extended leadership, like 70 people. Then in one of those every month, we extend even more to 120 leaders and all hands. And we do an MB week every quarter. And that's our, I think, most important event where we close the quarter. We look at the last quarter, what we're doing next one, and discuss everything that is touching culture and reorgs. Every quarter we do that. And in the end of the year, we try to do that in person and bring everyone. So we are doing a lot to make the remote work.
And if you were to describe the culture, the way it exists in Mercado Bitcoin that makes it so efficient remotely, how would you describe it?
It's really decentralized. Like our CTO is in
your
Palo Alto. Yeah, we have a product guy that is very senior in the structure. He's in Lyon, France. And when he joined, he said, hey guys, I can join you, but in 3 years I have to go to France because I have that deal with my wife. In 3 years, we're going to live in France. So we did not lose him. And he's happy living in Lyon and working for us. We adjusted the time zones of the meeting so that California and France can work. So I think being this decentralized has been working really well. And people have lots of autonomy. There is a lot of things being done async to reduce the amount of meetings. And especially, I think by doing so many new things and this market revolution that crypto is bringing, everyone is excited to take part in that to transfer money to Portugal. You don't need to wait for 3 days and the money is there in the next moment. Or this tokenization of assets that in Brazil, to make a receivable fund, you need $20 million at least to make it work. But many companies, they have 5 or 10, they don't have 20. And with tokenization, we can do $1 million operation and it's good for everyone.
So decentralization, one element, this recurring experimentation, innovation, and being aligned in terms of what you're building, that's the other thing. What are the other interesting things about the culture in MB?
I think constant change. We set these plans, but during the way as it's a new thing, now we have to deal with the regulation, like we are discussing with SEC, the local SEC, the tokenization, if they are securities or not. So what licenses do we need? How can we offer those? It's constant change. So I think you need to find people that like that, people that want a very stable place and stable journeys is not the right place because we have to deal with these. We are doing a regulated product, but at the same time, we need speed and creativity. So I think that's challenging, but at the same time, it's what pushes everyone. And doing things that are big like these Portugal, Europe opportunities is huge. this tokenization opportunity we have in Brazil to create this infra layer, now the CBDC. So we are dealing with things that might really change how the things are done in a massive scale. I don't see any better place to be than blockchain right now. Maybe AI, but blockchain is amazing.
Yeah, blockchain is an infrastructure, right? Not just as
Exactly. And
cryptocurrency.
that's the way we see it, you know. And as the exchange, we have now more than 200 assets listed. So we have a touch in everything. Like we made a utility token for Bodytech, which is a premium gym brand in Brazil. And you can buy the token and you have 5 years of gym and you can go to anyone, or 10 years. So there are two tokens. So quite interesting. And after 2 years, if you move to US, you can sell it. So you have a secondary market on your gym token. And the token can be enhanced later on with more benefits. You don't need to think about everything upfront. It's like a Tesla car that you get a download and it has more horsepower. So the token can have this kind of ability to make a revolution in loyalty as a coin and not as a point that you don't know how much that's worth, and in a closed loop so that you can take your coin out and sell it. I think these kind of more decentralized and more open loops, we still have a lot of things that are closed loops, right? And I'm not using this air company anymore. I'm using this one, but I have all my mileage points in there. I cannot use it. So I think very soon all of this is going to be interoperable. And interoperability, I think, is the main change, right? Because in blockchain, everything has its interoperability in the protocol. You don't need to connect and to make an API to everything. So I think as soon as the assets are going to be born on chain, those closed loops will lose power. We have one slogan, is power to the people, that the people should have more power on their assets, and many of their assets don't have liquidity because they are locked in these jails. And I think blockchain is going to release a lot of that. And as PIX is showing to us, I think we would have much more deals and much more volume and much more activity if those assets would be already released.
When you think about the applications for blockchain as an infrastructure, what are the industries or segments or opportunities where you see its potential to deliver the biggest impact with accelerated mass market adoption?
I think there are many. I just mentioned loyalty as a big one because the programs are not smart. So
They were not designed to be smart.
Yeah.
It was created to
So you see
retain
Nubank doing now Nucoin, Mercado Livre doing Melicoin. So imagine Magalu, who is our partner. They have a big ecosystem with many M&As, many vendors. And they could say, instead of paying with BRL or with dollars, you can pay using Magalu coin, right? And then you keep the money into your ecosystem and you can create benefits to the clients and vendors and merchants by doing that, right? If you use this coin, you can have this or that benefit. And it becomes as a loyalty program, but with more liquidity and with more features. So I think that that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that needs a secondary market and nowadays is kind of locked is also important. And things that should have more transparency, like we have this problem with Americanas now with the vendor operation was not clear how much they had. There was audits, internal, external, and all the governance could not catch it. If that was in blockchain, everyone would see that it was 20 billion and not 5, or 50 billion and not 5. That was what was in the financial statements. So blockchain brings much more visibility and transparency. FX is another one. Corporate cash, the same. And in Brazil, to take investments to retail with more transparency as well, and with accessible tickets also. So there is a lot.
And there will be more emerging, right?
And the stable coins. So you see the stable coins of dollar transacting worldwide through blockchain, right? So it's an extension of traditional assets. We have made our stablecoin of BRL so that I can do FX more efficiently, for instance, as one usage. and operate 24/7. So there are many, many things coming.
So, regulatory license, you were issued the license just recently. And before that, you spent, you said, over 3 years of back
Yeah,
and forth.
it was a filing in the beginning of 2020. So imagine a crypto company asking for a payment institution license was not very obvious in 2020. So there was a lot of back and forth. And finally we got this, and you got the custody license by the Central Bank of Portugal, which is very important. It's not an island or
It's Europe.
it's Europe.
The European Union.
Exactly. And at the same time, in June, there was this law, Decreto, stating that central bank will be the regulator of VASP. So we are called VASP, which is Virtual Asset Service Provider, because we are kind of exchange and broker-dealer at the same time. And now central bank will probably bring the specific rules of regulation, which is going to be quite fast. And CBDC is something for next year. So I think everything is happening in Brazil in the right pace, and central banks not working to ban or to limit. They're going to do the public hearing now to have all the industry suggestions to that regulation. And there is a lot to do with KYC, suitability, money laundering, terrorism protection, and there is lots of similarities with the traditional financial market. So there are many things that we cannot avoid or make different.
If you reverse back to 2020, you said that it was not a common move among players in blockchain and crypto to apply for a license to the central bank.
Yeah.
So what was your thinking behind that then? Why did you decide to pursue it?
There was no consensus in our group for that, because there is a lot of fintech and payment as a service in Brazil, a lot with APIs, very good ones, so many players. And then decided, what if we do ours? And we decided to go on that track. But it was not obvious because it was a big investment, very expensive. Right now, by having central bank selected as the regulator of the industry, it looks like very obvious. Right? Oh, right decision you made, right? But again, it was 3 years before that we decided to make the filing. So it was not obvious in 2020, and it was kind of 50-50 among us. And
what was the reasoning? Well, you mentioned it's like 50-50 non-consensus. What were the thoughts that prevailed in terms of the necessity?
Yeah, because, doing with a third party would be less expensive and would not take our attention to do all the application business case and run through these 3 years of systems that we have to provide and controls. But we finally got to the conclusion, no, this is a core block and we should pursue and do that by ourselves.
We're talking about millions of dollars invested in pursuing the license.
Yeah, because we expected to have that in 1 year. It took 3 years. So, and we hired all the systems up front. So we've been paying the system since 3 years ago to make everything pass through that. We always had this belief that it sooner or later would be regulated. So I think it's an important step to be able to set up those bank accounts to our clients and bring the debit card and the credit card and have the full suite, like a crypto bank or a bank empowered with crypto, and that you can exchange any asset by any asset in very seamlessly and easily. So I think it's a big step in the core play.
I'll ask 2 more questions and then we're going to move to mentorship and investing. So first question would be related to all these recent scams and frauds and, all kind of scandals around crypto that happened in the States. And FTX is a great example of a major scam, but that's not the only one. There were 20 major scams in the States. So what's your take on that? And how do you think that impacts the future for blockchain and crypto as a currency?
Well, every time you have some new technology that some people don't know, it might be used like that, right? Oh, here you have bigger returns. In Brazil, the scams were promising like 10% a month and saying, I have an algorithm, I have an arbitrage that operates worldwide and provides 20% a month, and I'm sharing 10% with you. But actually it does 20 a month. So in Brazil, we had Boi Gordo was a big one. We have Avestruz was a big one. So things that people don't know and they try to use. So some of those schemes, we saw that they were not even using crypto sometimes. In FTX case was fraud and crime and nothing to do with the technology itself, and mixing clients' money with company money. So that segregation is something that we expect that comes with these regulatory. So it's very important not to mix your company money with clients' money. That's very basic in the financial traditional market, and I think that's gonna come also to crypto. And by this way, having more supervision, we hope to have less scams. Every time we have one is bad for the industry. But again, I think FTX, it was so big that anticipated a little bit of water cleaning in terms of showing who are the good boys and bad boys and who had the collateral and who had not. So it was bad, but maybe it was good that it was early on and not in maybe in 2-3 years, and it would be even bigger. So in Brazil, I think as we had a series of 5 in a sequence, and we do a lot of education, so we hope that people are getting to know better that those things don't exist.
If you look at the next 10 years, if everything goes right, what does the future hold for To the Moon, Mercado Bitcoin, and maybe Brazil as a crypto hub of Latin America?
I think São Paulo is already the financial epicenter of South America, and so I think we are positioned in the right place. With our operation in Portugal, Europe has come in with MiCA. That's a regulation for the countries in that region, which makes a lot of sense because then you have a common sense around how crypto should circulate and operate in that region. So we're quite excited. I think we are really in the beginning, so it's very hard to say where we will go. But as an infra player, we see many opportunities by bringing blockchain to the trillions of assets that already exist, and not only scaling together with the new asset class. And in every country, I think it's good to mention, every country have also different needs.
Yeah.
For instance, in Argentina, with their Wake peso, everyone gets a salary in peso and transforming in Bitcoin or in a stable
It's almost
coin.
a necessity, right?
Exactly, almost a necessity. And it's not the case in Brazil. We don't have that issue with our currency. In Mexico, you have lots of remittance to Mexicans that live in the US, back and forth. So every country has their own needs.
What are the key countries that you're going to be focusing on?
Now it's developing Portugal to Europe. Yeah, that's our main focus now. And we made venture investments inside 2TM. When we raised the Series B, it was $250 million. Then we established the corporate VC because we do need more parts in the ecosystem that now exist and that were not core to make them in-house. And that we thought that participating in those startup rounds would give us more access, more connection. So we made some related to licenses that we have in business already regulated in Brazil, some in NFT. We invested in Figment, so we're doing our staking in partnership with them. So we invested in things that made sense to the exchange, but in a very pro-founder approach, so that it was not to buy control and try to merge later on. It was participating in the round and with no exclusivity agreements, things like that. By participating, we create a bigger connection. There is a better chance to have a partnership later on. So it was 20 investments. Yeah.
Is it the same team that, like the key C-level stack of Mercado Bitcoin, that invests in the corporate venture?
We have a corp dev team. So the corp dev was filtering and processing everything, and we would bring the specific people to make an opinion and interact with that startup. We are announcing a sale of one of those to BTG, and that one for instance, we made from scratch.
So you incubated it.
We incubated that with a partner that was from that market. So it was a kind of 50-50 deal. We both put the money in. JV alike, it was 2020, and now we are selling that business to B2G. There's another one that's also being sold 100% to an American player.
So let's talk about you as an investor.
Okay.
You've been investing before you joined Mercado Bitcoin, right? And if I remember it correctly, you built a portfolio of 40 companies as an investor.
Yeah, more or less with these.
And this 20 brings you to around 60 companies?
Around 60, yeah.
So first of all, what prompted you to start investing? And second of all, what kind of startup pitch or background or nature of business or purpose of business resonates with you as a standalone investor?
As we decided not to build a fund because we didn't want to raise money from LPs and do that path, because with our group of execs that left CET, the pace and the amount of money each one wanted to deploy was different. So what we said is, okay, I was leading that front and say, let's bring the deals and anyone join. So there was a core of 3 people, myself, Reinaldo, Mauro, that invested in most of them. And Reinaldo and I basically invested in all of them together. And it was quite interesting. We were usually investing with funds, co-investing in.
So it was more like Series C, Series A?
It's Series C, Series A. Mm-hmm. So co-investing with funds, in some rounds only ourselves. And in CETIP, we were doing a CVC also. So I created a CVC in CETIP in 2016. And we were supporting all these startup centers like Kubo from Itaú, Acate in Florianópolis, which is a very nice one. So I was very well connected in those centers. So we had lots of contacts and good relationship with the early stage funds. The VC arena was not so crowded also. So it was good. It was most fintech, but not only fintechs.
What are some of the companies that you're excited about the most in your current portfolio?
Well, besides Mercado that became our full-time and Banco Neon was
that's a crown jewel in your current portfolio, right?
Neon was Controle before, so Neon had such a nice trajectory, and later on made the deal with BV. We exit that investment in their Series B or C, something like that. Nowadays, I really like Asas. Asas is empowering SMEs with their finance daily jobs. And it's a company from the South. So sometimes we like also to look companies that are not only
concentrated within São Paulo
and
bubble.
Not only in São Paulo, they don't have all the attention that they should get by being far away. So Asas is a very nice one. And the problem they solve to an entrepreneur that is a self-individual that makes cakes to sell, these kind of people that
like real small office, home office, kind of one person show.
Yeah, and they really make the life of those people easier. We have Monkey that does the vendor payment anticipation, but like an auction, and brought a lot of lower cost to those small vendors because the risk is on the big client, not on the small vendor. But those guys were paying interest, very high interest, as if it was their risk, and it was not. That's a good one. Have Rank My App is one that does SEO on the app stores. We had Hello Media that was sold to BR Malls. We had Monetus, it was a robo-advisor, was sold to Toro, and Toro was now sold to Santander. We had Ata, that you were in a broker-dealer and you could finance your house. Usually people have to negotiate at the realtor and then has to go to the bank to set the mortgage. They start setting the mortgage in the realtor. They created that solution to themselves and spin off the startup, and it was sold to Quinto Andar. We had Ali Credito that made a round with BTG and we exit in that round. And inside the 2TM, we have Figment, we have Abra, nice stuff in the portfolio.
What is the most common reason you say no to entrepreneurs who want to raise money from you?
I think it was the team. People talk a lot about market size and this stuff, but to the early stage engagement that where we were, it's more about the team, because if it's the wrong team, then, or if we had a bad gut feeling, as we were not a fund and it was our money, so we could say, this is my money, right? And so I wanted also
this is my money and this is my gut feeling.
Yeah, and that the journey with the entrepreneur should be good. And there are 3 cases that we didn't listen to our gut feeling, and it was 100% bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, one of them was also a good exit, but the journey was not okay.
In terms of like how it felt and the dynamic of collaboration.
The dynamics with the founder, and it was nothing good. So even with a good result, I prefer not to have done that one. And then with those cases, I say, yeah, see, it was good but bad. So let's
gotta listen to ourselves more.
When we have this good feeling again, let's listen to that, even if it's a good opportunity.
And in terms of your partnership, that was fascinating to me that you've managed to create such a strong partnership among you as entrepreneurs, C-level executives. What do you think are the reasons why your partnership works so well that you can transfer it across different businesses, across, investing activities? What makes it work?
I think it's trust. I think trust is the main point. I think in 2020, like we had a Series A with GP, and we decided not to have a shareholder agreement among the 6 of us, the main team.
Yeah, you didn't have shareholder agreement?
We had with the fund, but we not had one with the founders. Yeah, because I said, if I don't trust, for instance, if I die, that you guys are not going to make bad with my wife and my kids with my interest, then I should not be sitting here, right? Because we said we need to trust each other. And in Brazil, if you file a lawsuit with a contract, that's going to take 10 years.
So you actually have to trust each other.
Exactly. But I think it's an exception, but it's the way we decided to move on. And now the partnership is big. We have more than 15% in RSUs, and we are reaching 50% of the company with RSUs. So our goal is to go up to 100. Every year we have what we call killer projects, and the people involved with those, they get RSUs. And by doing that, we give RSUs to the analysts and to everyone, not only to management level.
You're building like a network of partnerships.
Yeah, because I do believe that if everyone feels that they have ownership, they're going to work differently. And I became a partner in that outsourcing business when I was 20. And I know how different it was to me after I became a shareholder, right? So we've been putting lots of energy on building this partnership program, expanded to the team.
So, and that non-shareholder type of maybe transaction/document-driven relationships, do you think that level of trust was possible because you were at a certain stage of maturity as, humans, as business professionals, or because it's really unique? Everybody talks about trust, but a concrete example where trust is transferable across domains and scalable, it's not that common.
Yeah, but I think people put more trust in the contracts than they should, right? Because in all the M&As, you have some post M&A issues to discuss. And in all of them, all the cases I had that we had to sit down and discuss and negotiate to get to a solution. And nobody took the contract out of the desk to read the contract because, usually things will never happen exactly as it was pursued in the contracts. And in the other hand, if you get married thinking about the divorce, I think it's a bad
prenuptial agreement.
I think it's a bad way to do an M&A if you're
optimizing for divorce.
Exactly. And sometimes you create too many solutions for possible problems that they become alternatives. And sometimes people change and they come and, hey, look, at this moment with the configuration of the market, it's better if we execute this than if we make the business succeed. I think that's terrible because sometimes you just need 2 months more of push and then you are reborn. But But if all the the divorce alternatives are there, right? Sometimes it's easier to break up than to make that move on. So it's more our way of doing things, and I think it's working.
Clearly
And
work.
we, let's say, and also it's in terms of maturity, financial maturity, it's important also, right? How much risk you can take. And we were in a moment after 3 exits that we could do that solo flight and investing our own money, taking this kind of risk. So I think it's to everyone's momentum as well.
Do you have mentors?
I
And
ha-
how do you think about mentorship more broadly?
I wish I could have known mentorship before. Where I came from the countryside in the south, it was not common until I was in college. But in my professional life, the first guy that hired me as a CFO, I was only 27, and he was a CFO in corp dev of this Iowa company. So I've been to Iowa many times, which is very unusual to anyone, right? Bill Fuller. So he was one of the best that I worked with, and he moved to, after he acquired that business in Brazil, there was a big crisis in agro. So he moved to Brazil and lived there for a year. And he was basically living with us. It was Patricia and I and him, and he didn't speak a word in Portuguese. So we worked every weekend. I think we worked every Saturday of that year. And we used to go to hotels just to keep working on weekends. And he was great. And so he got this company. It was Becker Underwood, 2 founders, and took it international to kind of more than 15 countries. So I learned a lot with him. He was such a smart and pragmatic, and how he could bring those international guys to the table, and how he could manage so many countries in different situations in a very simplified way. And they had, in the US, they had 3 factories and 1 people doing all the payments. And I said, I had 3 people in Brazil with 1 small factory. You have all of this. So I learned a lot with them in terms of efficiency and doing this fast international.
And probably work ethics also, right?
Yeah, he was. When I come to US, I used to, Iowa, so I used to stay in his house, go to the church together, this kind of different boss. Yeah. And I know the family, and Patricia came, stay in the house as well. So it was a very unique relationship that we had. And I had Martin as well, Escobari, because Martin was with Advent at that time, and also all the GRV negotiation to CETIP to buy, and then CETIP and Advent sold their stake to ICE and the Intercontinental Exchange later on. So the deal making with Martin was a very good school. So I keep trying to talk to him every time I can, because it's always
what were the things that
class.
made him so good at what he does?
Or
are things that keep making him so good at what he does?
I think he's very unique know-how and expertise as being an operator in Submarino as well. They pass for so much, so he know what's to operate a growth business, and all the education he had, the school in Advent, and then this career at GA. So I think Martin is very unique. We have now in our Series A with GP, with Fersen, came Helio Sabel as well. So it's an investor in Brazil. So every time we talk to Helio, is a big class also. So it's such a low profile. He's a great investor as well. Helped us a lot.
Did he help you strategically, or he helped you to think differently about your business?
He's a senior guy that makes the right question. So he's always right to the point, making us think of what. And we are in end of 2020, COVID at the highest. And he said, I want to meet you guys in the office, because I never made an investment that I didn't see the people.
And COVID will not stop me.
He got in there. We spent the afternoon in the office with no masks. And I remember he saying that there was, we were showing the numbers to EBITDA, and said, EBITDA is only to pay executive bonus. I want to see net profit. So it was amazing. Every time we talk to him is amazing. So great to have him on board.
You have an incredible network. And you are also an Endeavor entrepreneur?
We made that track kind of late in that 2021, with the Brazil check and then the international.
It's
And
actually
it has been amazing with all the access Endeavor provides and with the events to connect to other entrepreneurs. So now we invested in the Endeavor fund in Brazil. I invested in the Endeavor Catalyst abroad. So I think this give back is important also.
What does it mean to you to be an Endeavor entrepreneur? I'm always so fascinated. Like I interviewed Camila, I know Adrian, and they're incredible people from Endeavor came to the podcast. And it's such a special organization in Brazil specifically and in the world. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, because the support they give is so true, is
Real?
so real, and the difference they make in the life of the entrepreneurs. So I think it's an honor to be part of. And now we are doing whatever we can to do all the mentorships that they ask, and also extending that to the C-level as possible as we can, not only to the founders, but also to the C-level. So it's great to see what they're doing, and they keep growing. Right now, they opened the Portuguese chapter, and I just introduced the two founders of the Portuguese exchange we acquired to the Endeavor team. So they're going to have the Endeavor support in Portugal.
Let's move to the rapid fire.
Oh, rapid fire.
I'll ask you 5 short questions, and I'll appreciate your immediate responses, and let's dive right in. The first question is, what movie, TV show, or book changed your life?
This is an old book. I think it was important because of the time I read that. And it was from Richard Adler. Interviewed many elder people that's very successful. And the question is, what you wanted to know 25 years ago? And the moment I read, I think it was 97, this book, and then made a Brazilian version.
What did you want to know when you were, I don't know, 18, 20, 25 version of yourself?
I think going international and going to São Paulo early, come to the US early to...
Just exposing yourself.
Yeah, even earlier, yeah.
If you were to become in charge of any other companies in Latin America or globally, what company would that be and why?
Definitely Porsche.
Why Porsche?
I love cars since I was a child. So it's my hobby to race cars. And I love Porsche. So I love everything they do in terms of keeping the heritage, keeping the soul of the brand and the way they make it. I visited 3 factories of them already. So I'm really in love with what they do, everything they do. So Porsche. There's KTM in motorcycles as well. It's my second passion.
So, motorcycles.
Yeah, KTM is also from Austria. I just visited the factory as well. So, but Porsche first, KTM second.
What is the kindest thing someone ever did for you?
I think my wife and kids. My wife is with me since we were 16, so we just completed 30 years together. I think so they are so connected. I have 2 boys. When things go really bad, I think the way kids react to me, I think it's the best, my safe harbor.
If you were to shoot a movie, what would it be about?
Any entrepreneurial success story. I think entrepreneurs do not have the recognition that they should, and the journeys are so difficult. So maybe Mercado Bitcoin is a nice script, a very nice script for a movie in the future. So
there you go.
I think all of those stories deserve a movie.
If you were an alcoholic beverage, which beverage would you be and why?
That's a difficult one. Maybe Negroni. Intense, bitter, and funny also.
Do you know what Fersen said? I'd be water, Olga. He said I'm very fluent. Roberto, thank you so much for being with me today. It was such a pleasure, and your story is incredible. How you build businesses, how you keep and maintain partnerships in your personal life, in your business life, how you enhance and give back to the ecosystem. It's a great example of entrepreneurship in Brazil and Latin America. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure.